My dad had three wives, and they planned his death under one roof. We all lived together like it was normal. One house, one man, three wives, and a routine built on fear. My father called it tradition, but it was ownership. He controlled everything: money, schedules, even when they were allowed to leave the house. He liked seeing them depend on him. He liked knowing none of them had anywhere else to go. Every night, he sat at the head of the table like a king. They cooked, they cleaned, they smiled when he looked at them, and went quiet when his tone changed. He believed silence meant obedience. What he never noticed was how close they'd become. It started with small things: my mother staying up later, the second wife helping more often without being asked, the third wife, the youngest, no longer crying behind closed doors. They moved differently, like people who finally shared a secret. Then my father started changing. He complained about headaches, he slept deeper, his temper got shorter, like his body was working against him. He blamed stress, he blamed age. He blamed everyone but the people closest to him. The house itself felt different. Doors locked where they hadn't before. Pills rearranged. Food cooked only by them, never by me. I felt like a guest in my own home. One night, I passed the laundry room and realized the machines weren't running. The lights were off. But I could hear movement: careful movement, coordinated movement. I didn't stop to listen. I didn't need to. Everything clicked at once: the looks, the timing, the way they moved like a unit instead of rivals. This wasn't survival anymore. This was planning. And then I understood the most terrifying part. They weren't angry. They weren't emotional. They were calm. Whatever they were preparing had already been decided. The only thing left was execution. Later that night, my father went to bed early. The house went quiet. Too quiet. And as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, I realized something that made my chest tighten. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to survive whatever came next. Living in that house felt like living inside a lie that everyone agreed not to name. My father still believed he was in control. He still believed fear was loyalty. He still believed the three women in his life existed separately, divided by jealousy, competition, and silence. That was the mistake that ended him. What he never understood was that shared suffering builds stronger bonds than love ever could. The change wasn't sudden, it was methodical. Schedules aligned, routines shifted. The women stopped reacting to his moods. His anger no longer landed the way it used to. He raised his voice, and nothing changed. He withheld affection, money, approval, and nothing changed. Power only works when people still need what you're holding. They didn't. I watched it happen from the inside. The house grew quieter, not tenser. That's how I knew something irreversible was coming. Calm isn't peace. Calm is preparation. They studied him like a problem instead of a man. His habits, his weaknesses, his health scares he exaggerated for sympathy, the medications he never actually needed, the way he drank more than he admitted, the way he trusted his own authority so deeply he stopped checking behind himself. They didn't rush. They didn't panic. There was no chaos. They waited. The first thing they took from him was credibility. Appointments were missed, paperwork went unsigned, bills were paid late in his name. He blamed everyone else: the world, his wives, his children, bad luck. He never once suspected coordination. He thought incompetence looked like chaos, not design. Then came the isolation. People stopped answering his calls, not because he was blocked, because messages were being intercepted, information filtered, stories reshaped. He thought he was losing respect. He didn't realize he was losing access. By the time he noticed, it was already irreversible. His health declined next. Not dramatically, subtly. Exhaustion, brain fog, weakness. Nothing that screamed emergency. Just enough to make him dependent. Just enough to make him sit instead of stand, sleep instead of monitor. The house adapted around him. Rooms rearranged, locks changed under the excuse of safety, cameras repositioned under the excuse of protection. He signed off on everything without reading. He always had. Then one morning, he didn't wake up on time. Not dead. Just powerless. Confusion replaced authority. His voice lost certainty. His commands sounded like questions. The man who once controlled the emotional temperature of an entire household couldn't even control his own balance. And that's when they finished it. No violence, no dramatic act, no single moment anyone could point to. They documented everything: medical concerns, erratic behavior, missed obligations, mood swings, decline. They created a narrative so clean it didn't look fabricated. It looked inevitable. When help arrived, it didn't come for him. It came because of him. By the time outsiders stepped into the house, they didn't see a patriarch. They saw a liability, a man failing in real time, while three composed, cooperative women explained the situation calmly and consistently. Consistency is more convincing than truth. He was removed from the center of the home without resistance, not dragged, not fought, redirected, managed, reduced to a problem that needed handling. The house breathed for the first time in years. The rules dissolved quietly. The tension evaporated. Laughter returned in ways I had never heard before. Not nervous laughter, real laughter, the kind that fills space instead of shrinking into corners. The women didn't celebrate. They didn't gloat. They rebuilt. Finances were separated. Legal structures changed. Lives expanded outward instead of folding inward around one person's ego. And my father? He still exists, but not as the man he believed he was. No throne, no audience, no control. Just consequences slowly catching up in a system that no longer bends for him. He was never killed. He was outgrown. And that's the part people don't warn you about. Sometimes the most terrifying revenge isn't destruction, it's irrelevance.